Alrighty, so like I mentioned yesterday, I want to talk about the spear throw and how to actually practice that if you haven't got a spear, because it is a big challenge, and whether that's down to the fact that you don't have a garden space or outdoors, and even if you do, you probably won't get away with throwing a spear at the local park or other areas. So the next best thing to do would be actually to go and train at one of the local centres. There's many around the UK, there's many around the States, there's ones in Dubai, they're all over the place, alright, but we need to seek that location to be able to specifically train that movement. Otherwise it's going to come to race day and you're going to get there and potentially you're going to miss. But what I'm going to give you here is a few things that you can either train at home or in the gym with a few items of equipment, or not even with any equipment at all, and I'll show you that as well. So stay tuned. There's a variety of different items of kit and equipment you can use. Ideally, we actually want to have a spear. You can buy these offline, you can even get the spear heads. Some of the other guys have even got links to different ones that you can grab them from as well, websites. I got this from a guy called Foz, who is over on Instagram as Foz Fabrications, alright, so you can check that out. They are a little bit more pricey. You can make them, I've made them in the past, but yeah, it's probably just better to buy one. So anyway, let's talk about the spear. So this is a big one that's missed a hell of a lot, and that results in a penalty at Spartan race now. Okay, and it's very, very avoidable. And things that I saw going wrong in people doing the spear throw at the most recent races was how they actually position themselves with the spear. Now, two questions for you, a question for you on two different movements, like what's going to be more powerful if I'm just using my arm to throw, or if I get my whole body into it and throw it like I've got a ball in my hand. So that's what we're going to look at. Okay, I'm not going to throw the spear, but I'm just here with my arm, or I'm here coiling up and completely launching, one, using that coil of the body up into this position, then using the full extent and reach of my arm, taking it through the full range of motion, and then using gravity and momentum to throw it forward. It's going to be far more powerful, and we can actually train this movement or these movements with a variety of different pieces of kit. What I like to do actually though is I like to stand either side on or in more of like an athletic stance once I've got the spear. I've got other videos on how to prime and prepare for that, but I'm talking more about like the actual stance and how we present ourselves to the target, and how we like use the spear and how we use our body to make sure that we get the maximum potential to throw and land that spear as accurate as possible. Okay, so I like to be in a side-on athletic stance. Okay, so I'm side on, target is forward, and then I can actually coil into this position and throw. Now a lot of people will say stand front onto it, point and go there, and then you've got this rotation, which is great and it does work for a lot of people. It's going to be dependent on how far that is away. But if we compare this coil in comparison to this slight rotation, I would guarantee that the coil is going to be far stronger than a slight rotation of the torso and just using the arm. And that's where I saw a lot of people going wrong, was they were just using the arm and then it just flails and falls short. Whereas with this coiling position, we can really give it some force. Now, another consideration with the spear now is actually where we hold it. Okay, you can see now that this is pretty much evenly balanced. Okay, so from the tip to the end, okay, there's an equal weight distribution. Now this might be a great thing to do, right, if the target's about 10 meters away. However, if it's a bit further away, maybe you want to bring the hand a fist forward. Okay, so if it's over 10 meters, 15 meters as an example. Okay, so there's different places that you can hold the spear depending on how far it is as well. So if it's like at a moderate distance, in the middle, evenly balanced, and then you're throwing and the trajectory should hit the target in the place that you want, providing there's accuracy. But then you can also bring it a fist forward, which tips the balance of it, and then it's going to be heavier towards the rear, and this will help with the trajectory of the spear as well. I wouldn't recommend going back, because then it's going to be front heavy, which would mean that it's going to plummet quite quickly, which wouldn't be so much of an issue if the target is 5 meters away, and that could stop you from throwing it over the top, which I've actually done in stadium races devastatingly, and losing a podium position. So it does happen, okay, but there's lots and lots of things to take into consideration, but just apply simplicity to it. Full body movement, so you're utilizing the coil, right, and the recoil of the muscles, and getting everything in synergy, as well as balancing spear in the correct way as well. Now, if you haven't actually got a spear, you can get this great bit of equipment, and this is called a rope. This one's actually called a Golden Teacher, and I've had a rope for years now. I think about 4 years ago, since I started my rope flow journey. Now I get mine from a guy in the UK called Tim Sheath. You may be familiar with him and his work. He does biomechanics, parkour from previous. Yeah, a phenomenal guy and phenomenal coach, and he's the guy that's brought the rope to the UK, among other different movement patterns. So yeah, a great tool and can be used for many different things. I'm not going to go into all of that, but there is one movement in particular called the ace. Okay, so I'm now stood in that athletic stance, but this represents throwing, and the good thing about it is you can get high repetitions in for low cost. And what I mean by that is, if I'm using a weight for something, in particular a heavy one, we're only going to be able to get a few repetitions out of that. Whereas with a rope, what we can do is really focusing on the movement, but opening ourselves up. So if we look at that from another angle as well, you can see how I'm incorporating that coiling movement. So it's almost like I'm pointing the arm and then coiling backwards, and then you can do this quite explosively as well. So the rope is a great tool. If you want to know where to pick these up, I highly recommend getting them. Loads of my team have got them, and like I said, I've used this for years as well. So move on to other pieces of equipment. Simply a dumbbell. Okay, this one's a little bit heavy, but I would suggest using a light one. So what we can actually do is, same fashion, we're up here in this position. Okay, so we're pointing at the target, athletic stance, up, and then we're down, and then we can incorporate more into that where we're, but I would suggest a lighter weight, purely for the reason of actually how you can move the weight. So up, arm up. It's actually a really good movement, because as you can see here, I'm actually getting some legs in as well. So yeah, again, a good full body functional movement to focus on. So another piece of equipment, you can do exactly the same with a kettlebell. I would suggest a lighter one, maybe 4 or 6 kilos. This one's an 8 kilo one, but athletic stance, knee up, coil into a swing. Okay, you can see that from another angle. throwing from the rear. You get a good workout as well. Okay, so there we have it. A few items of equipment you can practice with to really help. Another one is stone throwing or throwing a ball. Okay, I've got loads of stones down there. I could pick them up and just practice throwing them. And this is something I was doing with my son the other day, is actually showing him this position and then throwing the stone, the bit of wood, whatever that may be, because as a young boy at the moment, kind of throwing really oddly just with an arm, but really it is an essential pattern of movement that human beings have used since the dawn of time to hunt, yeah, to catch things, to fish, whatever that may be. Throwing is a big part of humans and what we are meant to do, okay? And equally within the sport of obstacle course racing, as you can see, it's very important. So yeah, hope you took some value from this. There's actually lots of different bits of information. I do have like more on the spear itself, but here's some really good tools that you can use day-to-day training, whether you've got nothing, something, a spear or no spear, and you can train them in the gym or at home. Hope you took some value. Catch you soon.